Two of the biggest threats for small businesses these days are going to be data loss and phishing. And most businesses don't understand the true cost of each of those.
Small business owners, and that's who we're talking to right now.
Mhm.
Um, how do they protect themselves?
This is the Power Moves for Business Growth podcast, presented by Gulfside Business Solutions, where stories and strategies meet to fuel your growth. At GBS, we bring together expertise in financing, strategy, marketing, tax, legal, and business operations, all to help you make the power moves that drive lasting success. Join us as we explore real-world insights and powerful moves from leaders, partners, and innovators shaping business growth today.
Welcome to the Power Moves for Business podcast, brought to you by Gulfside Business Solutions. I'm Joe Austin. I'm the owner of CJA Business Strategy. My co-host today is Herb Johnson. He's the Chief Strategy Officer for Gulfside Business Solutions. Let's welcome our guest, my friend Matthew, the owner of LunaTech. They are a managed IT services and VoIP company, but that doesn't do them justice. They add all kinds of value, provide all kinds of safety and security for their clients, and we're going to learn all about that. Matthew, thanks for being our guest on Power Moves.
Yeah, thank you for having me today.
Yes, Matthew, thank you for being here. Matthew, let's start by talking about cybersecurity and the direction that it's headed. A lot of people don't understand. They'll hear about breaches and things like that where there's literally billions of dollars involved. From your perspective and from a business owner's perspective, what should they be thinking about when it comes to cybersecurity and IT?
Hmm. Two of the biggest threats for small businesses these days are going to be data loss and phishing. And most businesses don't understand the true cost of each of those. We work with a lot of busy professionals. And so a good example would be like a dentist office. Usually the dentist who runs the dentist office is the office manager. They're the person who holds the license to run the practice, and they're seeing all their patients. Imagine this: you come into the office as the dentist one day early before all your employees get there. You can't open your primary application, your electronic health record system. That's where everything lives in your practice, right? That's where your schedule is. That's where your patient records are. That's how you bill them. That's how you run reports. Everything is in the software. It won't open. You realize other documents on your computer won't open either. They'll have a weird character symbol on the end. Your staff starts to roll in. They report the same thing on all their computers. You start to notice in every file folder on your computer and on your server, you have a funny little text document that's really long. And you open it up, and what does it do? It explains, hey, you got hacked. You're ransomed. All your files are encrypted. Oh gosh, what do you do next? Well, if assuming you don't have a managed IT company, you are Googling for an IT company, right? You pray someone can come same day, but in reality, most managed IT companies don't do project work or emergency work. And so you have to find someone that does. And then you have to close your office for a few days because you can't see patients. You don't even know who's going to come in to tell them that they can't come in. You're bleeding cash because you're not driving any revenue. And, in some states, depending on payroll laws, you still have to pay your employees just to sit around and do nothing. So let's assume you have good backups. An IT company comes in, fixes everything. You're running business. You're doing business again. Everything's good, right? Nope. Since you're under HIPAA compliance, you must now disclose this data breach to your patients, vendors, insurance, the licensing board. And not only did you lose a week worth of revenue, your insurance is going to skyrocket. Your reputation is going to go down. And if you don't have a strong buffer of cash to weather the storm, you may even go bankrupt. So was it really worth skipping out on paying a small fee to have a managed IT company keep track of your cybersecurity, your backups, and everything? I don't think so. And then the second biggest threat we see is phishing, right? Someone accidentally surrenders their password, or maybe they reused a password that was in a data breach. And before you know it, some bad actor is in your email account, getting all of your transactional email with maybe your vendors and whatnot. They set up rules to filter legitimate mail. And now you have bad actors communicating as your vendors, trying to either wire money or get you to do things that would, benefit the bad actor in some way. We've seen some really terrible examples where people almost wired hundreds of thousands of dollars to maybe a large supplier that they thought they were interacting with, but it ended up not being the case. So what can companies do? Well, first off, get a managed IT provider or just someone to look at your systems and have a disaster recovery plan in place. Look at your backups. And also, as a small business, one thing you can do right now that would be a power move is enable multi-factor authentication on absolutely everything you have. That way, if a bad actor does glean your credentials, they won't be able to get in without your, cell phone to authorize that request.
Matthew, just in listening to you, what I'm hearing is, you use an example of a doctor's office, but literally it could be any small business. You're going to have client data. You're going to have a lot of personal information. You're probably going to have credit cards on file, all that kind of stuff. And what I'm understanding is that you take a proactive approach versus reactive. For a small
Absolutely.
fee, you can be proactive and keep any of this stuff from happening. Is that correct?
100%. And if in the worst case it were to happen, we always have an extremely thorough and mutually understood backup strategy with the client. If a client gets onboarded in our managed IT services, we actually print out a document in plain English that explains what their backup strategy is, how it's backed up, how many times, what's the estimated speed of recovery, and we have them sign it just so that we make sure we're all on the same page.
Okay.
So, yeah, Matthew, I want to keep going down towards this premise, which I agree with, that a lot of businesses don't truly understand modern security risks. So paint a picture for us. I know you've heard some doozies. Paint a word picture. Give us a horror story. Like, what can actually happen if you fail to have, change the names to protect the guilty, but give us an example of what can really happen. What have you heard?
Yes, what have we seen? Well, it doesn't have to be a bad actor. It could just be theft or water or fire damage, right? We service the Northern California area, which is subjected to wildfires. And so that's something that's constantly on their mind. They're also subjected to power outages. And so having just multiple backup strategies in place is a great way to mitigate anything that may slip through the cracks. We have a suite of software to prevent things slipping through the cracks. One of my favorite ones is called Threat Locker. And what it does is it provides what's now being more commonplace. It provides a zero trust security environment, which means opposite of antivirus, which just lets pretty much anything on the computer run. And then if it thinks something's not right, it will stop it from executing. ThreatLocker does the opposite, where it only lets applications run that we've approved. If anything else tries to run, could be as simple as Notepad, Microsoft Help, if it's not authorized to run, it won't happen. And so these attacks are becoming so sophisticated, and the bad software being so good, that we have to implement more of these zero trust models just to make sure that folks are running the applications they're supposed to and their data is protected.
Does it give you like a prompt where like if you use Microsoft Help, for example, to where it gives you a prompt where you can allow it if you want to?
Yes,
or
100%.
now my Microsoft is never going to get updated. How's that work?
Oh no, those type of subsystems that are digitally signed by Microsoft and whatnot, those updates, they'll still continue to run. And if the application comes across something that wasn't previously authorized, there is a little pop-up. You just say request access. My team gets a text message, and within 1 minute we can go in there and take a look and then authorize it if it's something we recognize.
Growing your business doesn't stop when this episode does. That's why Gulfside Business Solutions and CJA Business Strategy offer webinars to help you grow your leads, sales, revenue, and profits. This isn't a lecture. This is an interactive session where we're going to help you grow your business. To learn more and to register, go to gulfsidebusinesssolutions.com/webinars. Now, back to Power Moves. This just came to mind. This is a silly layman question. You mentioned that the software for the attacks is getting super sophisticated. Are people using AI to write these? And do AI companies have any guardrails on their AI to keep them from helping bad actors?
Yes, and yeah, well, yes to both. So, yes, people are using AI software to write bad and malicious code. However, and yes, companies like if you go on Codex, I think, which is by Google, and you try to write some bad code, they're going to have some guardrails. But also, it's not that difficult for someone to maybe invest $5,000 to $10,000, maybe less, and spin up their own large language model, which they have full control over, which has a database of C++ and all the programming languages to just write their own bad code and have it do whatever they want. It's really it's a tool. We pay a subscription, or we submit our data to ChatGPT or OpenAI or who knows what in exchange of using their platform. But there are many options, many large language models out there that you can just run on your own in-house systems to do whatever you want with no guardrails. And so that's what these bad actors are doing.
See, to me, that's a horror story right there. As a consumer of technology, yeah, that's a horror story. So that makes me want to be protected even more.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and thinking like large companies like CrowdStrike and Palo Alto and companies like that, they exist, but they exist for major players in major markets. Small business owners, and that's who we're talking to right now.
Mm-hmm.
Um, how do they protect themselves?
Yes, I think probably the most important thing is to talk with a qualified IT professional in your area, or maybe get a referral from someone, right? Someone who works in the small business space, works with the vendors who can kind of like quarterback your IT environment into what it should be, right? A managed IT provider has at their disposal several softwares that they can deploy into an environment to make sure that the solution is right for the business, and that most importantly it fits their budget. CrowdStrike and Palo Alto, those are, as you mentioned, big enterprise players, and if you just go Google, I need cybersecurity, right, you're going to get hundreds of companies that come up, and they're probably not going to be the right fit. So getting with a professional that works in this space every day is the right thing.
But if I'm a doctor, as the example you used earlier, or I'm a small
Mm-hmm.
businessman that I own an auto body shop, or I own an attorney, or even a business coach. We'll use Joe as an example. And you have all this data, you have a lot of stuff. Can they afford your services?
Absolutely. Whether it's on a monthly basis as managed IT, or if they just want to consult with us, we're extremely affordable. Our plans start at $3.99 a month for 4 users. We do have minimums just because it doesn't make sense really to provide managed IT service for one person. But if Joe wanted to book a couple of hours to go over his systems and subscribe to some technology and anti-malware solutions himself, we're happy to walk him through that.
Okay. So you can, for like a single individual or a single business owner, or maybe somebody that has just 2 or 3 employees, you can spend bill them on an hourly basis to protect their businesses. And they don't subscribe necessarily. They see you like on a quarterly basis or something like that to just make sure everything's up to speed.
Correct. Yeah, we're happy to go in and evaluate what they've got, see what they may be missing, where their blind spots are, point them in the right direction in some software. A lot of times we can resell our software to them if a full managed contract is out of their budget.
Okay, so you can basically help anyone from one employee to 500.
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's worth knowing, because I think a lot of small business owners, they're just in the space where like I got enough going on. Technology, I can't keep up with it. It moves way too fast. And just from an investor standpoint, I've invested both in CrowdStrike and Palo Alto, and I've
Hmm.
studied those business models, and how they shifted and moved just in the last couple of years is amazing to me, and I can't wrap my
Certainly.
head around it. I mean, I can't keep up with it. So, like on the working end of it, which is what you do, I can't imagine, keeping things up to pace and that being affordable as a business owner. That's the way I think of it. And now you're telling me
Right.
that that's not necessarily true, that I can be protected, and you offer that type of service.
Yes, absolutely. It's a lot more affordable than most people think, and to put together a suite of services that accomplish what's most important, right? Keep you protected. They're not intrusive to your daily workflow, right? People used to, antivirus used to get a bad rap because, if there was a problem, you always blame it on the antivirus or the firewall, right? Well,
Right.
having a professional who can put all these services together into a solution that protects you, does not impact your day-to-day work, and also provides a backup and disaster recovery solution, I think is something every small business owner should think about.
Great.
There are more power moves to be made, and we're going to help you. Right now, Gulfside Business Solutions is offering all of their business strategy books free of charge. This includes the Power Moves book, 2 business strategy books from me at CJA Business Strategy, and a marketing strategy book from our friends at Tylerica Marketing Systems. This offer might not last, so get your free resources now. Go to gulfsidebusinesssolutions.com/resources. Now, back to the show. So I think we're painting a good picture, Matthew, that IT security is for all businesses, not just big businesses. What type of misconceptions do you encounter from smaller organizations that are resistant to get help? And then how do you explain the value of what LunaTech does to those businesses that maybe need a little bit more convincing?
Sure. I think one of the biggest misconceptions is I'm too small of a business. I only have 5 employees. I'm just an LLC. I'm not a big target. Well, you may think that, but in reality, it doesn't matter if you're a target or if you're a big target or not, or if the actor has something to gain. It's like, how much are you willing to lose if all your systems go down, your reputation's trashed because you got phished, or you accidentally surrendered all your banking information and had all your money wired out, right? So think of it, focus on yourself, think of your perspective. What do you have to lose? Another misconception is that managed IT is only for big business and it's not affordable. Not true. For example, I said our plans start at $399, right? And we're trying to educate our customers to think of managed IT as part of your payroll expense. I mean, you're already supplying your employee a computer. You're probably paying for some payroll software, ADP or Gusto or something like that. You're probably providing them tools. You're providing maybe even a vehicle in some cases. So wouldn't it make sense you also spend $99 a month to give them access to a suite of software to protect all your systems plus unlimited help? We think so in a lot of cases, right? And then for those businesses that may have in-house IT already, we provide a tremendous value for them if they're thinking about firing their in-house IT. Because if you just think about base motivations from each business approach, right? If you have an in-house IT department, there's a lot of ego there sometimes because they're motivated to maintain control of the systems and their own relevancy. And so, yet at the same time, if projects come up, after hours work, they're kind of hesitant to do that because they don't want to do extra work. Therefore, your systems are not brought up to date and not moved forward to new and innovative things. In the middle of that, you've got a break fix IT contractor. They only get paid when there's a problem, right? And so problems are good for them. Flip that on its head. What does a managed service provider do? Well, we make money by providing unlimited support plans and leveraging our human and software resources. We tackle problems proactively without the client even knowing, and that benefits both parties, right? The client has a smoothly operating IT environment and someone they can call immediately whenever there's an issue. And the MSP makes good money by making sure that client has as few issues as possible because they're on an unlimited, managed basis. And so that, I think, is the best relationship between MSP and small business.
So you're being proactive, and you're minimizing risk by being proactive, and you're limiting exposure as well as expense. Is that what I'm hearing?
You got it. And beyond just cybersecurity, our software gets installed, on every computer that's in the environment. We have software that can monitor your firewall and router. On some plans, we even replace your networking equipment with higher end stuff that we can monitor and secure. That way, if something happens, let's say it could be something simple like a CPU is reaching 99 degrees centigrade consistently. That's not a good thing. Maybe there's something wrong with the cooling fan on that computer or laptop. We get an alert. We can check that out. Maybe a hard drive in a RAID array on a server is failing. We get an alert about that. Your internet goes down overnight for whatever reason. Maybe there's a power outage. Maybe the battery backup failed. We get an alert about that. So that first thing in the morning, you hear from us instead of walking into a dead office, right? We're like, hey, we know there's something up. We'll be there to fix it if it's not fixed already.
So, Matthew, how do you see the future of managed IT evolving over the next 5 years? Everything in technology seems to me to be changing really rapidly. And then how is LunaTech preparing for this?
Right. What's really popular now is AI, automation, compliance. We already talked about the zero trust security framework. We integrate our monitoring tools, like I mentioned, so that they can detect and resolve these issues before a client even notices. And going forward, technology alone is not going to be the future, right? As we interact with AI more and realize the true capability of it, I think relationships are going to be the most important. As IT and all these systems get more complex, having a trusted advisor who can translate all the fluff and what all these cybersecurity companies provide into true business outcomes for you as the business owner, I think will matter more than ever before. I mentioned before, we encourage our customers to reframe their IT spending as a part of their payroll instead of like an optional expense. I really think paying for IT should just be like you're paying for your internet, you're paying for your utilities, because it is necessary and complex.
Yeah, very. Matthew, tell me how people can find you and contact you for this one-on-one relationship that you're speaking of. Because
Yeah,
to me,
absolutely.
that seems extremely important in that, like if I use something that I find off the internet and McAfee antivirus or something like that, and I have a problem, I'm going to an 800 number or some AI chat box, but you actually bring it down to a personalized level. That's invaluable from my perspective. So how do people contact you?
Absolutely appreciate that. Yes, easiest way would be our website, which is lunatechteam.com. We have a variety of contact forms on there. Our phone number's on there. It's answered by myself and a business partner. Or you could just email me directly, which is matthew@lunatechteam.com.
Perfect.
Okay, Matthew, it's time for our Power Moves tradition. We can't wrap the podcast until you make us laugh. What do you got?
All right. How do you weigh a millennial?
I don't know.
In Instagrams.
Perfect.
Matthew, thank you so much for being our guest today. It's easy to see why LunaTech has over 99% customer retention. Thank you also to our audience. We hope we provided you with at least one power move that you can use to grow your business. Until next time, God bless.
Thanks for joining us on the Power Moves for Business Growth podcast, presented by Gulfside Business Solutions. If you enjoyed today's conversation, follow or subscribe wherever you listen to your podcasts and share it with someone making their next big move. Learn more about how GBS helps businesses grow at gulfsidebusinesssolutions.com. Until next time, keep making the power moves that fuel your growth.